Welcome back to the place where an atheist can watch videos made by a Christian who refuses to prove atheists wrong on the existence of God, who refuses to debate. Instead, conversate. Have these conversations that would take place out of the circle. Have these conversations over here where I am not trying to prove you wrong. Instead, I care about understanding what I'm calling the culture of atheists. I understand that there is no central leader of atheists, but what happens by default, ironically, is the comment section of my videos for atheists in some way become like a church, except the leader you're fundamentally opposed to. I get the irony. I'm good with it. And if these videos were not relevant, people wouldn't keep watching them. And you better believe I would not keep making these videos if people didn't keep watching them. The free market has determined that atheists are engaged by these videos by a formula that is atypical. Most videos made by Christians for atheists are meant to try to tear down the atheist and prove them wrong. Not here. We're just having an emotionally intelligent conversation. I'm trying to understand your mindset better, not because I want to become an atheist, but because I believe in emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence means I recognize I'm surrounded by an entire world of people who see things differently than me. They have a different perspective than me. And while I'm not interested in changing my religious faith, I do think it's important to understand everyone where they're at in life. Empathy, emotional intelligence. So let's check out a video that I had recently made. And basically this is almost like a follow-up or a sequel, because the video is called Atheist Culture. Atheists believe the word believe is a toxic word. And the reason I even made that video was 7 months ago on my other channel, Family Friendly Daddy Vlog. I made a video where I sincerely asked, at the time, not knowing as much about atheist culture as I do now, I sincerely asked, what do atheists believe happens after we die? That was the question. And what happened is one of the most popular, famous atheist YouTubers, Bionic Dance, decided to feature that in one of her videos, which has now had, I think, tens of thousands of views by this point. So she featured it in there. And after I watched her response to it and looked through all those comments, I realized that basically I had accidentally misspoken by saying, what do atheists believe happens when we die? Now what's confusing is, as I basically made this follow-up video saying that atheists believe the word believe is a toxic word, and the comments, the 17 comments I've received from that video were saying, well, no, it's not that we won't use the word believe, it's only in conjunction with religion or God. Okay, so if that's the case, because that's overwhelmingly what people are saying in the comments, I wanted to ask this question a second time then, 7 months later. And I'm going to ask it more specifically this time. What do atheists, and I understand that's a generalization, but you are an individual atheist. So as an individual atheist, I'm asking you to answer this for yourself. And then collectively, when I look at all the comments, then I'll see a collection of atheist responses, and then I'll get a general understanding of how this works. So the question being, what do atheists, you the individual atheist, what do atheists believe happens to your consciousness the moment you die? I'm going to say that specifically one more time to make sure I got it just right. What do atheists, you the individual atheist, believe happens to your consciousness when you die? See, before I said it wrong, and I said, what do atheists believe happens when you die? Do they have faith that there is no God? I worded it all that wrong. But see, now I'm asking it differently. What happens to your consciousness? Because the answer I got was, what atheists think happens when you die? Well, you're dead and you rot in a grave, and that's it. But that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking about your consciousness, because something you know, Christians absolutely fundamentally believe that when we die, our consciousness lives on. And we obviously, therefore, according to Christian teachings, are judged by God for our life accordingly. And what comes next is based on how we lived our life and whether we had put our faith in God or not, and how we lived our life accordingly. All those things. Our consciousness lives on. But my understanding is atheists, beyond not believing that there is a God who judges us for how we lived our life and accountability and all that, forget all that. When it comes to atheists, they believe consciousness does not exist. That's my understanding, but I'm asking the question so that you can have an opportunity to prove me wrong here. You, the individual atheist, do you believe consciousness ceases to exist when you die? The reason I'm asking that is, I'm wondering if there are any atheists who believe consciousness exists beyond your physical body. That there's this concept that inside this shell, and yes, my last name is Shell, but in this shell of a body, that is beyond just what we physically see. We can call it a soul, we can call it a spirit, whatever, call it a ghost, whatever helps that message transcend there. That part of you not only exists, but is separate from your body. What I'm asking, are there any atheists ultimately who believe that we are anything more than a physical body? That there's something that actually happens after we die? Or ultimately, do we just simply cease to exist? Does our consciousness cease to exist? You know, this concept of living forever, eternal life, that Christianity is a big fundamental part of our beliefs. But if you do not believe there is a soul, you believe we are just bodies and just brains, and that's it. So when I ask the question, what do atheists believe happens to our consciousness when we die? What I'm assuming is going to happen is the answers will all pretty much be the same. Consciousness ceases to exist. It's just like before you were born. You don't remember it. And that's what happens when you die. That's what I believe pretty much all atheists are going to say. But I don't know for sure. See, something I do is I explore what I'm calling culture of atheists. I'm finding out if this is pretty much the general rule. That's one of the things that fundamentally atheists and Christians can never have in common. Because if you're an atheist and you believe that there's no consciousness that exists beyond your physical body's life, then fundamentally Christianity collapses. There's no point. There's no point if you're not judged for how you lived your life. There's no point if you're not accountable to your creator. There's no point, because ultimately it all ends anyway. And that's one of the reasons why I refuse to debate with atheists about the existence of God. Because ultimately, and I've said this before in another video, none of us can know until it's too late, and then we can't know anymore. If atheists are right and our consciousness does cease to exist once we die, atheists will never get the confirmation that they were right. They will never be able to communicate with a Christian after that point to say, hey, we were right. I was right. Which is one of the many reasons it's pointless to debate about that. In the same way, if Christians are right though, and we are accountable, and there is life after this as far as consciousness, well, what fun is that? Is it like Christians are going to say, ha, gotcha, you're wrong? No, not at all. There's no joy in that. A Christian should never see an atheist as someone they want bad things to happen to. And I think that's important for Christians in general, that we do not have, that we do our best to not have enemies, that we do our best to not have people that we need to forgive. Forgiveness is a major part of the Christian life. Be ready to forgive. Because as long as we are living in that shadow, we cannot have peace. So ultimately, what do atheists believe happens to consciousness after your physical body dies? I predict almost all of you will say the same thing. It's just like, the answer will be, it's just like before you were born. You cease to exist. You are not aware of what's going on anymore because you do not exist at that point. You are only a physical body, and that's it. And if that is what atheists believe, then yeah, what good is Christianity? All it was some kind of moral compass to live on this life and nothing more. So why even bother? And fundamentally, as long as you don't believe in consciousness, what's the point in believing in God anyway? See, this is me understanding the mindset of atheists, the culture of mindset of atheists here. And we can also leave room in the comment section to address this too. Do you still feel okay with me using the word believe with all of this? Because people in the comment section from the other video said, as long as you don't use the word believe in conjunction with God, then it's fine. Well, specifically, I'm not talking about God. I'm talking about, do you believe that there is consciousness after you physically die? So it's not about God, it's about consciousness existing after you die. But see, for me, and again, Christian mindset here, as I'm trying to understand atheist mindset, is that I attach the word believe with faith. So in my mind, if you believe that consciousness does not exist after you physically die, I equate that with having faith, that you have faith in something you cannot see, in the way that Christians have faith in a God we cannot physically see or prove. In the same way an atheist cannot physically prove that consciousness exists or not after this life. So for me as a Christian, it's hard because to understand that, because it seems so much like faith to me. But again, that's my mindset. And if I didn't want to understand your mindset, I wouldn't be asking you in this video to get you to explain that better to me. Because on my end, already assuming that almost all of you will say there's no consciousness after your body dies, it's as if you were never born. I translate that as an atheist, I believe, I have faith that there is no consciousness after death. And by default, Christianity is pointless because not only is there no consciousness after death, there is no God. Christianity is pointless. That's my perception. Tell me your perception in the comments right here.